time to jump into the spoilers. If he finds a hitchhiker, and he now is getting into his mother's funeral. He realizes he's kind of missed it. He is going through the house. They're playing the tapes, but then he sees the head or lack of head in the body. And he, later on he claims he knew it wasn't her because of the birthmark of his keeper. And he is, he falls asleep. And also, I guess to rewind, this is again going back to what we talked about earlier. When we go downstairs, we see all her accomplishments, that she has all these businesses. And I think, and again, I don't know if I want to rewatch it anytime soon, but I'm going to probably rewatch it one day, just to kind of pick out Easter eggs. But I'm pretty sure, again, this is to me when the movie says to me that Mona set up almost everything. And again, this is where I feel like it was such a Truman Show movie, that she really has been in this man's life in every aspect of it. Because there's a picture on when she was coming down the stairs of him in his apartment on the phone. So it kind of shows you that she was a part of it since the beginning. And then there's like this, she buys real estate. And I think one of the buildings was the building that Beau lived in. And it was almost like a building that she created to build his fear. And then we see him as a kid taking the pills, which to me seems to be, ever since Beau was a kid, he's a test dummy. He's a lab rat that she's tried out the drugs on him. She puts him in this environment to see if he's resilient or if he can survive the world. She sets up these relationships. So to me, this is when the film is just like the old aha moment that Mona has literally, in every aspect of his life, she has been monitoring him and studying him and using her son as a product. But I could be wrong. But as that happens, Elaine pops up and listen, I love when she comes up and her immediate thing is, time to have sex. It's time for Beau to become a man, I guess. And Amanda, this is what I want you to, obviously talking about all this stuff I just mentioned, but the sex scene, which was the most funny and one of the more awkward sex scenes I've seen in a long time. Luckily, I wasn't in a theater with my two best friends like Kobe. There was like 3 people in the theater and we were spread apart. When it wasn't. Thank you, Kobe. Thank you. Perfect. When that song comes on, Amanda, I don't normally like do any visceral moments or like laugh out loud in the middle of a movie because I like to respect my other people around. I couldn't help but to laugh because that was just so damn funny. The needle drop was great. A lot I've thrown at you, Amanda. But before we get Mona coming in, what did you think about that whole setup of the funeral, the downstairs of like revealing that she might have been a part of it all since the beginning, to meeting Elaine in the sex scene?
Really liked that we got to see all of that he's kind of seeing his mother and who she is for the very first time, because I don't think he knew that she did any of that apart from him take the pictures and the posters that we saw. Right. He didn't acknowledge the fact that he was a product for her and that she tried so many things on him. And it was a weird relationship from the very beginning. Yeah. But this ties into the ending where I don't want to get too far ahead, so I'll speak on it later. I'm just saying.
I love the word that you used, excess. At this point, we're 2+ hours into the film, and it just feels like reflecting back, there's a good movie in here, but there's so much excess that's masking like genius shit that could have been at work. Like if I wanted to explore the trauma of a man because of the unhealthy relationship between he and his mother. Yeah. There's so much that I could have taken away and removed that doesn't have to cloud the way, because even by this point, I don't believe anything is changing the way Beau thinks about his mother or himself. It's just things happening to him continuously. So it feels very much redundant at this point, where it's just like more bad is happening, more bad is happening, more bad is happening. Yet I don't see him ever being changed by the bad, for good or for worst. It's like, it's just, he just has to accept that these uncanny things are happening, and it's further steeped in surrealism that it loses the weight of its effectiveness. Because like, I don't know what the stakes are, because if he's truly dead, then all of this is for naught. If she's truly dead, then I don't know what we're doing here. But if she's pulling the strings from behind, we have no idea when it's happening. Is she pulling the strings inside of his head because she's now a specter of all the bad manifestations of who she actually is? So maybe this is all in his head. Maybe he's projecting an evil mother when she really isn't. I'm so confused. Then I'm questioning everything that happens, because then immediately afterwards, we go into the attic.
Well, yeah, we got to set the special section for the attic.
Go ahead.
Which was that, yeah. But then we kind of, and to pivot into this third act, y'all, and starting with you, Kobe, again, she's coming out from the shadows. Mona, she's alive this whole time. Getting into Mona, who I think stole the third act. She saved the third act for me because it is so ridiculous and just kind of makes the rest of the film kind of weightless. But her performance was just so strong and so demanding. And it's rare to see, again, we talked about how great Joaquin Phoenix is. You know, I don't want to say she outclassed them, but just from a character standpoint, because at this point, Beau has just been so beaten down and just so in shock, and she's just so heightened that I'm just like, she is just eating all this up. But taking it over to you, Kobe, we get the reveal. We go up and find out that the therapist has been in it the whole time. She's taped all their sessions, and it symbolizes, or it kind of summarizes that Beau blames everything on his mom, which is, I think, something that we can all kind of at least understand or relate to, that it is a conversation a lot of people has, you know, oh, I'm this way because of my mom, I'm this way because of my dad, or not to get too dark, but we have all those conversations about in the US in particular with gun control, and we have all these tragedies of school shootings, and you know, the mental health is like the last thing that people bring up. It's more or less, well, where were the parents and this, and people blame parents for everything that their kids end up being, which I think there is a certain leash you can have with that, but at some point you as an individual have to grow up, be your own individual person, and take accountability for your own actions. So that moment to me was really like, okay, I like where they're going there. But Kobe, your thoughts on just all this reveal here, and the therapist, the Beau learns about, you know, all the stuff that's going on, leading into the penis and the dad and the cloud and being in the attic, man. Take it away, Kobe.
So I thought I missed something, because like as Patti LuPone is like walking through her bedroom and then through the bathroom and the closet, because like we've gone back several times to that bathroom scene.
Right.
So like, what is this relevance? What traumatic event happened as a child that he hasn't been able to escape from? And I feel like all the previous things, I don't think the foreshadowing was, because at first I thought like she was insinuating that like he had a brother that didn't work out.
I have that in my notes, and I was going to bring it up here that it was a brother, and the dad was the penis. Is that where am I reading into that wrong?
Yeah.
So I thought when she reveals, like, if you don't blah 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 blah, she pulls down the thing and traps him. I'm like, oh, did she trap the brother who was like the bad one?
Yeah,
right. Who was like constantly doing that.
I think we're on the same wavelength. Yeah,
it's the father, but then there's this dick monster in the corner.
Yeah,
and but like, is the father's the dick monster, or is the father? The thing is, because there was a small little person there, so I'm like, wait, if that's the dad, is the dick monster just like this? This
like
symbolizing the.
And the dick monster had like 10 like these things like an alien, right? And then he kills Jeeves. Jeeves is still.
That I didn't get.
Himself in the neck and the head and still alive. That made no sense.
Where's he running?
He shot himself through the collar. Like, I don't know, bro.
But then again,
if this is all in his head, then we don't need to apply the rules of reality. But then if we don't need to apply the rules of the reality,
I didn't get that. I thought his dad was up there for a split second, like the person that you saw, and it wasn't the dick. But then on top of that, I'm like, wait a minute. If Beau's so terrified of that freaking attic that he keeps replaying it, what if he's in the attic?
Yes.
And I was like, it's him the whole time. And she trapped him up there because there were things in the attic and in the house that he was like living through, like obviously his own apartment. And then he saw different things. And I'm just like, but that also doesn't make sense, because I was lost. When I mean lost, I was lost. Like, I had no idea at that point, but that's what I thought. If Beau was up there, I don't know.
The entire time, what I'm waiting for is the reveal, like what we get in Moon Knight. Essentially, we get a reveal that everything that we see has a mirror image of what actually happens in real life. And does every storyteller need to like give that? I don't think so. But when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then we rely on that. Because essentially Beau, is, he's a, what's the word? An unreliable narrator.
Narrator, yeah.
Right? But then the hardest part when I get to this point, I'm just like, okay, so I feel like I've seen this movie before, and
Yeah.
it had Joaquin Phoenix in it, and it's called Joker, and the unhealthy relationship that he had with society and his mother, and we're essentially doing this. That movie's way better. It's way better. Like, and I have all these other questions, and I'm just like, and I feel bad because like I really love Ari Aster, but like at this point of the film, and we still got 30-something minutes to go.
Yeah,
I'm just
which
like,
is where we're. Yes. So to address that, and let us know in the comments for you who all are watching this, I did feel as though to Kobe and Amanda's, I interpreted it as, yes, Beau had a twin brother, and his brother was the one that was put up in the attic. Because we revisit that flashback for one last time, and when she says it's not a nightmare, it's a memory you had. We saw young Beau, our Beau, Joaquin Phoenix. He was the one in the tub. Like, are you gonna say anything? He's like, no, so he's complicit. But the other brother who has spoken up against Mona, she locked him in the attic for all those years. So, and then the father is the penis. Like, she saw that manifestation of like, he was just there to serve one thing, which I think she says earlier, I just want to have kids. And all she saw from the dad is just a means to have kids. And that's all she saw him as, is that versus like an actual person with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head. So that's how I kind of interpreted it, which to Kobe points, it brings us into just wrapping up this chaotic third act, which to me, I'll just go ahead and say, this is where the film just completely just falls apart because it makes everything else just seem so pointless. Again, I love what Patti does, but we have Beau finally stepping up for himself. He strangles his mom, doesn't kill her, but she passes out. He leaves the crime scene, and goes on this boat. Again, Amanda alluded to it, the water being a big symbolism. We go in this kind of almost, I don't know if it was recreating his birth, essentially. We go in this stadium of being he's on trial if he's a shitty son or not. And we're just watching her just lay. And prior to that, she was laying into him this whole third act of like how bad he was, how terrible he is. You should have came. You should have came when I called you the first time, and all the stuff she did, the birthday gift, giving her the same gift 2 years in a row. Just a bad son. What's the message in that? What are you trying to tell us? Like that was so frustrating. But Amanda, we get to this trial sequence. The doctor / family lawyer is giving his accounts. We have Beau's defense telling him, his side of the story. And ultimately, Amanda, it's decided that Beau is just a shitty son, and the boat explodes. He drowns. It's almost like I brought you into this world, I can take you out. And it reverses again how we open the film with him being born and essentially going back and being unborn, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But Amanda, take it away. What did you think about this final and third bombastic, chaotic, crazy third act of the film?
This is where I thought that he was in purgatory, because it just makes the most sense where he's on trial for all of his actions. Then he gets to speak out and all of that. And then he dies at the end of this. So he's going to hell, given the fact that his mother is like, well, you did X, Y, and Z to me. This is why you're a terrible son. So it essentially feels like that's where it's heading. So then everything that happens to him prior to this trial isn't real whatsoever. And that's why I can't believe anything that happens before this. And that's why it loses all its how can I put it? It loses all of its, I guess, accountability in the fact that you're trying to make it a psychological thriller. But you're missing the fact that we can connect with Beau. Like, for me, wanting him to die in the third act already, like, I could care less about what happens to him at that point. So I just think that the believability was lost. And if people do watch this film from the beginning, again, I would be mindful of the fact that none of it's real from the very beginning, and that he's going through trials that would essentially put him in hell because his mother's been torturing him his entire life. That's the only way that I can look at it now. It's the way I've interpreted it. Because that's the only way it makes sense in my brain with everything that happened.
And Kobe, before I talk to you, and that's where it kind of, again, it loses so much weight for me in this third act, is because we're focusing so much on Mona, but it was from Beau's perspective this whole film. But now you're telling me that it was Mona why even have kids, right? I guess that's a big question. Is why does she even want to have kids if we find out that she's been recording his life and his decisions his whole life? They go to the mall. Why did you hide from your mom to make her scared? She broke her leg. It's so now Mona's the star, and we're supposed to feel bad for Mona, but we spent 2.5 hours having empathy and sympathy for Beau, but now we find out that he's a terrible son. It's just so backward storytelling to me, Kobe. But your thoughts on this third act, man? Again, we find out he's been recorded his whole life. Mona feels like he's a terrible son. He ultimately loses his defense attorney and has to fend for himself. He ultimately accepts his fate, which is dying, and in the film, and we have the credits. And I thought, Kobe, take it away, bro. Take it away.
Yeah. So at this point, like, the film lost me an hour beforehand, right? But I'm just trying to see, like, maybe there's got to be something redeeming that's going on. And the LuPone performance is strong, even though
I said that saved it. That's the only thing.
But it's the character motivation that just doesn't work for me, because I'm big about perspective. And if I'm unsure if this is from Mona's perspective or from Beau's perspective, but we have no idea where it's coming from, because if we believe that the entirety of this film is inside of his head, when does he question, like, what he's coming to grips with? Is he just in full accept? The trauma was so much from his mother that he has convinced himself that he's a shitty son, but he never says that to himself.
Die for that? Yeah.
He never said. I'm saying he never says that to himself.
Never accept that. Yeah.
So is him dying in his head? If this is all in his head, when did he die? Like, I'm so lost, and all of the pillars of what built up the world continually with each act get taken down. I no longer have any, like, believability to what the goal, like, the exterior goal was clear for Beau to be able to get back to his mom because he felt the guilt of not being there because she died.
Right.
You know, and he was being impressed upon by the lawyer that was important for him to be there. And there was these active obstacles that he had to overcome. And along the way, there was questions of his own character and ethics that he was battling, but in no way does he ever say to himself, no, I've got to get there. And I recognize that I'm not always strong, but I really am strong. He doesn't go through any of that.
Exactly.
So now I don't believe this character. I don't believe the conflict, because the conflict feels contrived. So she's hired all these people when we see, along with the journey, active obstacles that she's created for him to still pursue her.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah, man.
And I'm just, and like, honestly, if I didn't have any reverence for Ari Aster, how much I loved Midsommar, like, I, as a film critic, responsibility to, like, stick to the end. But, like, there was times I honestly just wanted to check out and just leave.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm like, I stuck out all the way through. And then when ultimately he dies, and there's people that are like, no, he does come to a realization, like, you know, and you can see it on his face. I think essentially just saying, like, you know what, whatever, that's not realization for me. Like, and I'm just like, I didn't need 3 hours to experience this. So once again, this is the least payoff I've ever had in a movie. You know, and that's what, like, honestly, that's what that is what ignited this fiery. The moment that the credits came up on screen, I stood up and I said, I don't want to hear a single clap for this. I just don't. And
it's tough, man. I'm telling you, because again, like, as we've said at the very beginning of the stream, how we do a kind of, so look, the fact that there's a studio by A24, which is one of my favorite studios out there, that allowed Ari Asher to come into this pitch meeting and say, hey guys, I got this movie I've been cooking up. And I don't think he gets this movie made without Hereditary and Midsommar. Like, this is not a movie you make out of the first gate, because it's never being made. So there is a moment of me, and going back to just being a fan of film and a critic, that likes the idea that a studio will allow someone to put this out there, regardless of, you know, not sticking to land. And the fact that they're taking risk makes me happy as a film goer, because we always talk about sequels, requels, reboots, IPs, Marvel, Disney, Star Wars. Where's originality? We have it right here with this film. So that side of me is like, it gives me hope for the movies moving forward. We can get, even if it doesn't turn out well, that there is a studio that's at least allowing people to take risk. And that it was, unfortunately, it doesn't stick the landing. Amanda, any final thoughts from you on this experience? On, I guess, because I've seen some things online that some people are saying this is a career killer. This is irredeemable. He can't come back for that. I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to see Ari Asher making a film in a couple of years and probably get back on track and make a straight up horror, or maybe he plays another genre. We'll see. I don't think this is going to end his career.
No.
what say you, Amanda, as far as just final overall thoughts? And I guess what would you like to see Ari Aster do next? We have the cult movie with the witches and the mother and son dynamic, and the mother and more tragedy from one generation to the next. We have a codependent relationship in Midsummer of someone finding themselves by the end of the film. And now we have a very toxic relationship between the mother and the son who manipulates him and gaslights him and makes him out to be, as we talked about at the beginning, makes him out to be the villain at the end.
Doesn't
What
seem like
next
he
for
likes
Ari
parents
Aster?
a lot in his movies, huh?
Listen, Kobe, I need that biopic of Ari Aster. Like, what has my man suffered through? What has he, who hurt you, Ari, is the question I have. But Amanda, final
Literally.
thoughts in Mr. Ari Aster's next project. What would you like to see?
I think he needs to ease up on the psychological horror. I think this man needs to do a comedy because there's some funny beats in all three of his films. So I think if he kind of like simplifies a storyline, uses that dark humor, I think that would be kind of a pivot and a bit refreshing. Because all three of his films are very heavy, this being the heaviest to process because it's so complex. I do like him. I think he's great, as you said. Like, without Hereditary and Midsommar, this movie wouldn't have been made. Apparently, he had this in the works for 10 years. So if his name didn't do it, yeah, it's been 10 years. That's why I'm saying
this was a studio project that no one picked up. Which you can't find actually because the main actor, unfortunately passed away. So they took it off and also too, I think the short gives away a lot of beats in this film, so that he didn't want to spoil the movie. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's okay. But I do like that he's taking risks. I think the best word to describe Beau Is Afraid is that it's very ambitious. It's an ambitious film. It's overly bloated. There's a lot of excess that could have been cut down, but it is an experience that we've been saying over and over again throughout this entire review. So if you go in blind, I think that's the best way to approach this. Don't watch any trailers. Go in if you want. But I'm excited for his work. I think we need more originality, and that's something that we've all been looking for in the mess that is requels, like you said, Elliot. So yeah, I like him. I like him as a director. I like him as a filmmaker. Yeah. But let's hit those comedies. Let's liven things up a bit in Departure, because I think this is going to be like a cute little horror trilogy. Cute little horror. Look what I said.
Cute horror trilogy. Yeah, that is the cutest horror trilogy of all time.
So Amanda. Cute. But he covered so much in those three that I think let's depart from this genre. Yeah, make something new. So yeah.
Kobe, what say you, man? Any final thoughts on this film? What would you maybe want to see Ari Aster do next? And I guess, just your commentary on someone taking risk and filmmaking moving forward. And if Ari Aster after Beau Is Afraid is someone that you still get excited for, that when you see his next project announced, you're like, I'm excited, or like, after Beau Is Afraid, I'll wait till that comes out on, streaming. What say you, Kobe?
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the more frustrating movie-going experiences that I've ever had. I think it is one of the worst films I've ever watched, but not necessarily because it's an all-out bad film. It's just my level of investment and also the length. I'm not the guy that says initially the length of a film is gonna I'm just gonna crap on it. No, it's not that. But when it completely doesn't pay off, and I feel that wasted, because on top of the 3-hour runtime, I do have 25 minutes of this was all for naught. And I don't I feel like this is one of those films I don't have a desire to watch for a second time. I don't want to
one and done.
The people that have watched this thing 3 times or whatever, more power to you. I can't recommend it to folks. But I absolutely will watch whatever he has next. What he was able to give me through Midsommar, he's not a one-hit wonder. Like I said, I really enjoyed the first part to Hereditary, and it's not like the second part was bad. I just felt like it wasn't earned. But I was one from start to finish with Midsommar. But I think it's because of the direction, the writing, and as well as the performances. What we got, from Florence Pugh, was it Jack? Was there?
I know you're talking about,
Jack Rader, something like that. But they were both really, really good, and it just that film worked on me so much. And once again, the performances in here are strong, even despite the writing. But I can get everybody's entitled to a bad film. The crazy thing, and I think what's kind of gone into the division is that what I don't want to see is that we have this penchant of allowing leashes to certain storytellers than we do others. Because like I keep saying, oh, this is so audacious. This is so wild. This is what we need. But like at that point, like as a critic, am I not suing my barometer for how I critique films where I give audaciousness to one director but not another? And I feel like we're treading a really interesting line. Because like, and if somebody can sit here like make an argument for this that like really understands that, maybe like I'll change my stance. But like, there's some things in here that I feel like are indefensible. And as a person who was in the room when, yes, I love how everybody now is using the hashtag career killer. Shout out to Eric Weber. Yes, that was him. Somebody illegally recorded a conversation that Eric Weber and I were having in a movie theater. So if you heard that audio, that is me on the other end. And Eric Weber is over here saying, Kobe, this, and I'm like, no, it's not. Number one, he's a guy. That motherfucker ain't going nowhere. All right. His privilege will keep his career afloat, and everybody's entitled to a bad film. I loved Jordan Peele's Us. I know it was not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
You know, and I do not believe that a project that is a quote unquote miss for some should be labeled as a career killer. Like, this didn't work, but he's already got something in the works. You know, so take this. He'll learn from it. He recognizes and he knew that this is going to be a very divisive film.
100%. He's embracing it too. I've seen some Junkins. He's like, I hope people hate, or not to that extent, but he's hoping that people have this type of reaction.
And maybe that's convenient, right? To be able to do that. But then also, this is still art. You know, there's no formula. There's no magic science. There are things that like do have objective standards. And I think he purposely wanted to deviate from a lot of those things. He said that this is his most personal. It's up for us to be able to dissect what that is. I do want to hear some of the. Amanda, did you get a chance to hear the Q&A that he had in I think in Canada?
I did. Yeah, I did. And he didn't really have nothing. He gave nothing.
Gosh,
I'm serious. No, because like he's sitting there and the moderator was like he was asking him, he's like, well, what did you why did you do this in the film, or what made you do certain things, make certain decisions? And he's like, well, it's how you interpret it.
Right?
It's like, did you purposely do this? I don't know. Like it was answers like that, but I'm like, you know what?
Super vague.
I appreciate the shit out of him for even doing that, because you know what? Whatever he thinks is what he thinks. He's gonna visually do that for us as a director and even as a writer. Like his thoughts are on the page, and then he puts it out there for us. So it's like whatever he intended is not going to be what we're going to analyze or what exactly. So I appreciate that, because you can always talk about the cinematography and the script and you can talk about that, but like it's subjective at the end of the day. So I appreciate what he said.
And that's my final thoughts on it. Is again, I'll go back to just, I appreciate the artists of filmmaking. And that is, he's not holding our hands, as Kobe said many times. He's not spoon feeding us. This is what's happening, right? It is, I think films, not all films, right? But some films, I think we need to be challenged as audiences and not just, we always have these quotes, or at least I say it every now and then, where it's like, hey, I shut the brain off and just watch what was going on screen. And some films have that type of a leash to it, but some films do want to challenge his audience. To Kobe's point, I think certain runtimes, they know it's a challenge. 3 hours of a film is whether it's Avengers or Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, people know that it's going to be a certain, just to get people in theaters, especially in today's society of our short attention spans and streaming and all that stuff. So it is a challenge just to get you in the theater first off, and then to go on this journey, something else of a whole. So I am excited to see what he does next, as Amanda said, whether it's a comedy, whether it's a full-length animated film about, I don't know, a healthy relationship. Ari Aster, can we get a healthy relationship between a mother and a son, or the dad and son? A good relationship. Can we see if is he capable of that, guys? Is the question I have. So. But I'm excited to see what he does next. And while this was on my most anticipated films of the year, and I want to say it's the most disappointing because I haven't seen the rest of the films on my list, but I am slightly disappointed that didn't really stick the landing at the end of the day. But I am at least happy that there's still art being made that can challenge its audience and question what was real, what was fake, was she hired, was it, all that stuff that we talked about throughout the stream. It is, I guess, as a film lover, it's nice to have those, and I want more want more complete stories with more definitiveness and cohesiveness, but I do like to be challenged. And I think Ari Asher accomplished that. So very interesting film to talk about. And again, we got to do this more often. But listen, everyone at home, if you have stuck around to this point from our spoiler-free portion, all the way breaking it down to the ending, to this very outro, we really appreciate you. If you enjoyed the conversation, again, just a reminder before you all leave the video, hit the thumbs up, hit the share button. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments of everything we discuss, your interpretation, what worked, your deeper meanings, and all that good stuff that we talked about. Let us know in the comments. And again, not only for myself of subscribing to the channel, but again, Amanda and Kobe, information in the description. Click it. Check out their content 50,000 times on replay. Subscribe, follow them, all that good stuff. So with that being said, you guys have been awesome. Be safe, and we will catch you guys on the next video.